Hey, good morning, everybody. Glenn Setchfield, VP of Marketing for DMI here. We're going to just let you commence for a moment, but we are going to talk about striking gold together here in just a minute. You're in the right webinar. Our team is all ready to go. All right, let's just go ahead and jump in. So again, well, good morning. Again, I'm Glenn Setchfield, VP of Marketing for DMI. Let's just take a few minutes to, oh wait, I'm sorry. I appreciate you guys attending, but for those of you that don't know DMI, we're an annuity and life wholesaler, or IMO, based out of Boston, Massachusetts. And we've been in business for about 35 years, and we prioritize educating our industry and financial professionals on concepts, services, and product that can move the needle on your business. So today is no exception as we delve into discussing the DMI's webinars and best practices. What you'll learn here today can be applied through our services or anything you're doing on your own as well. So be sure to listen in. I'm joined by an excellent cast of professionals, as you can see before you. Our key presenter, Courtney Tosone, is an event manager for DMI with a very diverse background in digital marketing and events management. Per usual, we are also joined by our content strategist, Maureen Walker. And last but far from least, Tyrell Jensen, one of our favorite VPs of annuity sales, is here to help us with many things, particularly best practices and follow-up and that kind of thing. So remember, as always, as you have questions, please use your chat function or Q&A function with any questions you might have. And Maureen will also be sharing survey questions with you throughout the webinar to keep it kind of fun. And please engage with those as you can. But let's kick things off. I just wanted to mention why we're here. Courtney is pulling up our presentation here for us. So for our agents, either receiving or not receiving marketing service support, our webinar program is one of the most impactful things you can do for your business. So now that's comes with a caveat. You really want to be willing to support the quantity of leads that this program produces. You do have to do the follow-up, but we'll get into that a little bit further along the way here. So this is a proven program. I wanted to talk a little bit about the numbers. So got a lot of financial professionals here. I know numbers are important to you guys, right? So guys and gals. So Courtney, if you could take it to the next slide, let's jump in. Here are some average results. This is from 2023, I believe. In 2023, we had 1,312 hot leads, 5 to 6 million in extra production per year on average, and then also a 39% average attendee ratio. So those numbers are pretty impressive. One example, in 2023, we had a DMI producer submit an extra $11 million in webinar business, while another garnered almost 2,800 leads. So that $11 million of business does not include the AUM business that would have been derived from that as well. So that's a pretty good chunk of change. So that's just kind of a high level average numbers. Now, the way agents or advisors engage with the program is going to be different in every case. I think their motivations behind using the program are going to be different as well. But generally speaking, I think you really want to follow best practices around calling and follow up after the program, or else obviously, nobody's going to drive the business home for you. after the leads have been set up, if that makes sense. So let's go to the next slide real quick. Lifetime average by partner agents. So we just put a few samples in here. So partner agent A had an average of 26 registrants with attendees being 13, attendee ratio of 50%, and average appointments 4. Average appointment ratio was 26%. I guess we're just showing you guys this just to show you that we're trying to track the whole workflow. So, we always want to improve the performance of your next webinar. So we've got to always be cognizant of what's happening. Are people registering? If they register, are they attending? Are they not attending? If they didn't attend, why didn't they attend? Then we want to look at those average attendee ratios, the amount of points or the amount of appointments that are being set, and that appointment ratio. All that stuff is critical, and evaluating what you want to do on your next webinar to improve the average appointments, the appointment ratio, and then also your closing ratio. But with all that being said, I just wanted to actually hand it off to Tyrell and have Tyrell talk a little bit about how this has impacted the businesses of your agents and advisors, if you don't mind, Tyrell.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Glenn. So I have a variety of reps who are using webinars as part of their marketing. Some are using webinars as their primary source of marketing, and others are using it kind of as an addition to their current marketing. And so for them, it really comes down to, when we're looking at this and how is it impacting their business, it really comes down to how many appointments do they want and what are they looking to accomplish. And so, it's been a huge benefit for all of my reps, regardless of whether they're looking to add a couple of appointments or a couple of new, clients a month, to wanting to add, more every month. And that's something we can help, you determine how many webinars you should be doing a year, and what that is going to get you for, appointments. And so, but it's definitely something that has helped all of my reps, regardless of whether they're doing, a couple, 2-3 webinars a year to doing, one or more a month. But it's definitely added additional, business to their books. As you could, see by the previous slides, we get a lot of great results when we do these, but it does come down to, and as you can see here, there's a variety of results from these reps. It really comes down to the follow-up that the rep is doing, how involved they are, what type of follow-up they're doing, and then whether or not they're using outside resources to help them, or they have a staff who's helping them do it, or whether they're doing it on their own. So the results will vary, but that's something that we will work with each of our reps who are doing webinars to get the best results for them and hit the numbers that they need. So Courtney, I'll turn it over to you to continue on.
Right. Oh, 1 second. All right. So today I'm just going to go over with you guys our webinar process and some partner vendors, and seeing what might work best for your business. I'll go over some tips and then just your role as well as our role in the webinar process. So about 6 to 8 weeks before you're thinking of even hosting your first webinar is when you're going to start thinking about all the planning. So what are your goals? Specifically, how many appointments are you looking to get per month by hosting webinars? So is that 5? Is that 10? And then kind of once you have an idea of how many of appointments you're trying to get, we'll have an idea of how many webinars that means you should be hosting throughout the year. So that's kind of the first step we always have our agents and advisors think about. And then we also want you to think about the time commitment involved. So we have reps that are running them 1 to 4 webinars per month. So that is a time commitment. So it's just making sure you're able to keep that, because we're seeing the best results for those that are running them consistently throughout the year. And then as far as the budget, so it really depends on which vendor you partner with us. But the cost of each webinar that we see, it varies from $2,000 to $6,000 per webinar. So depending on how that marketing is run, I'll go over that in a little bit. But that's just something you're going to have to see how that fits in with your business also. And then for whatever vendor you work with, you also have to decide what demographic area or state you want your registrants to be from. So is that an area around your office, or maybe there's a new area you're trying to capture some leads from? So that's basically one of the first questions that you're going to have to decide. And then as far as the topic in the presentation, so the best topics that we see with our vendors as well as internally is Social Security, taxes and retirement, and estate planning. And we have a presentation for each of those three topics. It's been approved by compliance. It comes with a full script. And then basically once you choose that topic and you're more along in the onboarding process, I would brand that presentation to you. So that would mean getting your logo, any contact information, disclosures, all of those items to get that presentation branded to you. And then I would also create a shared folder with a bunch of documents that we would reuse during the webinar process. So like I said, that would be your presentation once it's branded to you, some information on our vendors. We also have some client-facing PDFs you'll have access to. For example, we have like a budget planner that you could use during your appointments or during your follow-up. I will also include our analytics tracker. I'll kind of go over that in a little bit, but it's basically just the central reporting we have all of our webinar clients use so they can keep track of everything. And we also have some call scripts I would include. So we have confirmation call scripts as well as email and phone call scripts to use in your follow-up. And as far as some of the vendors we work with for webinars,
Hi, sorry, Courtney. We did have a hand get raised. I was hoping we could, well, maybe there's a question. So is it now a good time to ask it?
sure.
Frank, do you have something you'd like to ask Courtney?
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I think I messed up.
Oh, no problem, sir.
Okay.
So then the next step is deciding which partner vendor might be best for you. So this normally happens about 5 to 6 weeks before that first webinar date you're hosting. So we partner specifically with White Glove and 8-Digit Media. They both run a bit differently, so I'll go over some of those differences now. So White Glove, they have a pay per attendee model. So that means you're only paying for the attendees that attend the webinar. And they do that by charging per household. And they do suggest about 20 households in attendance per webinar. So Social Security, for example, is $249 a household, whereas taxes and retirement estate planning are $299 a household. So you're seeing about $5,000 to $6,000 as the cost for one White Glove webinar. And some other differences I just wanted to point out. So for White Glove, one of the things we like to share is that your company wouldn't be on any of the marketing for White Glove. So they use kind of a generic white label marketing for your webinars. So the first time that your attendees will have seen you or heard of your company will be on that webinar. So that's something I just like to point out. And then they also have great training at White Glove. So if you're new to webinars or just aren't really comfortable maybe with the whole tech end, they have training on how to run them. And they also have a webinar concierge who joins you on that webinar. So they actually handle all of like the questions, they get everything set up for you. So it's a pretty great experience if you're starting out with webinars. As far as 8-Digit, so they actually have a monthly subscription of $2,500 as their price. So it's a bit different than with White Glove. And then you decide how much you would want to spend in ads per webinar. So for example, they suggest $1,000 per webinar. And then you can host up to 4 webinars a month with them. So if you're looking to host up to that 4, you would be looking at $6,500 for the month for hosting those 4 webinars with a $1,000 ad budget. So that's just something we like to point out is the pricing is obviously some of the first questions we get when folks are starting out. And now with 8-Digit, they do allow you to have your own branding and everything on their landing pages, which is great. So that's basically one of the big differences with White Glove also. And then 8-Digit, they do work with a select number of advisors per area. So if someone's already running like your taxes and retirement in your area and you're looking to do that, someone might already have that booked up. So they kind of work with more of a select group like that book them consistently throughout the year. So they might have to have a little bit more flexibility on the availability with them. But that's just another thing I like to point out. And then as far as kind of once you're deciding which vendor you might want to work with, I still just reach out to both to see what's available for you. And then you can kind of go from there and see what works best for you. And then once you officially pick one, I would introduce you to the vendor. We would set up an onboarding call and then kind of hit the ball running from there with everything they need to get your webinar started. And then I also want to point out that they both have online portals or systems where you would go and get your registrant data from, which is great. So you're able to see as the registrants are registering leading up to the webinar. And then that's where you'll pull your lists after the webinar also. And some other key pieces that you're going to have to think about. These are normally about a month out from the webinar, but the biggest thing that can honestly take a lot of the time is marketing compliance. So if your marketing requires compliance or approval, you're going to have to send all of that over to them. So your presentation, any ads from the vendors, any email scripts you want to use, any brochures, everything like that. Nothing will be able to start until everything's approved. And then from there, you're going to want to practice your presentation, get that nailed down. And then get comfortable with the webinar platform. So if you're partnering with White Glove, they'll actually have a training time that you'll do with them. So you just will set up that time with them. 8-digit, it's a little bit more hands-on. They have a lot of videos and such you can watch, but that training is really on your own responsibility and on your own time. And then for both vendors, we have you create a Calendly or some other appointment link so that on the webinar, people are able to book an appointment directly. And it will link right to your calendar. I have a little screenshot of what that looks like if people are familiar. But basically, they choose the date and the time that works best for them. And it's already based off what is available on your calendar. And I also suggest that everyone shares any login information that they have with the vendors with me. So if there's anything I can help with on the back end, I already have access. And the next kind of pre-webinar process are confirmation calls. So both vendors handle these a bit differently. White Glove, they actually handle them for you, so you won't have to worry about that. That's already included in their pricing. But for 8-digit, if that's something you're looking to do, you would have to do that yourself. Again, I would include that call script for you, so you're able to use that. It's basically a thank you for registering. We look forward to seeing you kind of thing. And then we suggest doing those 1 to 2 days before the webinar if that's something you're looking to do. And then the rest of the information I want to go over kind of all the post follow-up and what happens after the webinar. So immediately after the webinar, or 1 to 2 days after, kind of as the max, you're going to send some follow-up emails and calls to your no-shows and your attendees. So your attendees will get a thank you, we're so happy you joined us kind of email, and your no-shows will get a sorry we missed you. Both vendors do have the option of adding these on. But we just recommend kind of doing them yourself so you're a little bit in more control. You're able to see if people are engaging in them. They'll be replying directly to you with any questions. So kind of just gives you a bit more control over the process. But basically, how you'll get your list, like I said, is in your portal. You'll be able to download that. And then basically it will indicate who was attendees and who was the no-shows. And then you also have to see, so who did book an appointment with you on the webinar. So for example, if you're using Calendly, you'll get a confirmation email when someone books that appointment with you. So you'll just kind of match that up to your list to see how many appointments you did get. Both of the vendors normally do provide a report if you clicked on that button, but you'll have to go in yourself to confirm who actually officially booked a spot on your calendar. And then we also suggest calling your attendees who didn't book an appointment with you after the webinar. So to try to hopefully get some more appointments or see if they have any questions. So this is something that your office would handle. Or like Tyrell had mentioned, there is maybe some other call center options or other options if that's not something you're trying to take on. But that is something that there's some other options for. And then a big thing I also wanted to point out. So if you are a marketing client at DMI, we do a lot of this follow-up for you. So we create custom emails for you. We work with you on any organization of the list if you have any questions, getting of the list. Basically, we're just here for that full support for the follow-up because we just know how important that is. And that kind of leads us into list management. So like I said, if you have a CRM or some other email system, you want to make sure you add all of these names into that after each webinar date. Just really helps keep your list organized. So you'll separate those lists by the no-shows and attendees, and then upload them with the appropriate tags. So are they an attendee? Are they a no-show? Did they book an appointment? And then kind of from there, if there's any other custom emails you'd like to send in the future to that to those groups, you already have your list segmented out for you. Especially a lot of people like to continue to drip on all of their attendees that didn't book or their no-shows over time. So sending them some different custom emails, things like that. And again, if you're a DMI marketing agent, that is something we work with you on, is kind of some more email drips onto your lists and your leads. And then another thing I just want to point out is that if you are sending emails out yourself, you're just checking on the engagement of those. So are people clicking on your emails? Are there bounces that you need to remove? Kind of just managing those names will just really help over time, especially as you're getting all these new leads added in. And then one of the biggest parts that I like to speak about is our workshop analytics. So this is an example of that tracker I mentioned. So it basically lists every date that you would have a webinar, and then you're going to fill out how many registrants you had, how many attendees, how many no-shows, how many appointments, the cost of the webinar. And then it will be for the whole year. So you'll be able to see your totals for the whole year as well as the averages. And we basically just have everyone fill this out after each date, or I can assist you with that if you need it. But it's basically just crucial to see where you're at for the year. What am I following up with these 1,300 no-shows that I had? What's going on with them, kind of thing, just keeping on top of that. And also, so if there's anything you want to change or that isn't working, you want to try a different topic, maybe try a different webinar time, be able to see how that relates to some of your previous or upcoming webinars. And then as far as just some webinar tips I wanted to point out. So the best dates and times we see to host currently are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 12 p.m. or after work, like a 6 or a 6:30. And then as far as the length, we're seeing 45 minutes as the max with questions. But honestly, that 30 to 40 minutes is probably more of the sweet spot. Then you want to make sure you have good lighting. And when you're hosting the webinar, a clean background behind you, your eye is kind of level with the camera. You're not looking over here kind of thing. And then we always suggest doing a whole run through of the presentation. So you're recording it and then you're reviewing it after. Is there anything you want to change or anything like that? Because you'll be able to see what your attendees saying and maybe want to make some changes from there. And then as far as what my role is throughout the process with you, so I would help see what vendors would be available for you once you're kind of deciding what areas you're wanting to maybe host in that topic. I would introduce you to that vendor once you're ready to officially move forward. I also assist if there's anything you have questions during the whole process, because I know it is a new process for a lot of people. So I'm always here for that support. But then I also, like I said, mentioned that shared folder. I'll brand you your presentation and kind of make sure you have all the pieces that you need to be successful. And as far as what your role would be running webinars, so you'd be picking that vendor, like I mentioned, and managing that relationship with them. Again, I'm here for support, but it's really on you to make sure that they're getting everything that they need and you're keeping that commitment with them of booking that date or continuing to book with them. And then sharing any information you got included on that presentation to me, making sure you're practicing that presentation, getting a hang of that webinar platform, making sure you're setting up that Calendly so people can make appointments with you. I'm sharing any logins, like I mentioned, and then just, again, the emphasis on the follow-up of writing the analytics. So it will only help you as you continue to book more dates to stay organized and making sure that you're staying on top of all these leads that you'll be getting by doing webinars. So, Tyrell, it's back to you, my friend.
Thanks. Wanted kind of give you guys a little breakdown of what I do and how I help my reps who are doing webinars. I always tell all of my reps this. I tell them, my job is really to be a chameleon. And what I mean by that is I'm here to change and morph into what you need instead of me telling you, this is all I'll do. So I really try and customize what I offer based off of what my reps need when they're doing, when they're working with me, when they're with DMI. So I wanted to break down a couple of things real quick. Courtney has mentioned a couple of times a DMI marketing client, and I wanted to kind of give a quick little rundown of what that is. So here at DMI, based off of a rep's production, you can become a DMI marketing client, or where we will give you additional resources and help based off of your production that so many hours a year. To be able to do additional things that we normally wouldn't do, but based off of production and your relationship with DMI, we'll step in and do additional enhanced things on the marketing side. So like Courtney mentioned, some of those things would be constructing and helping manage the outgoing emails or follow-ups from these webinar attendees or people who registered but didn't attend, things like that. And so one of my roles is to help you get to that spot here at DMI, be able to become a marketing client. Like I mentioned, that's based off of production. So one of the things I'm doing is helping you get there to that level of production, and then getting you into that marketing program so that you'll have those additional resources. When it comes to webinars, like I mentioned, again, I always tell my reps I'm a chameleon. So some of the things I've done for some of my reps when it comes to them hosting and doing webinars through DMI is I've had some of them come back and say, Tyrell, I'm not getting the success. Can you help me? I need some help here. I'm either not saying I'm having a lot of appointments, but I'm not able to convert those appointments. I have a lot of attendees, but I'm not getting people to book appointments. Whatever their issue is. So some of the things I've done is I've actually attended or watched their recorded webinars and been able to sit down with them and walk through and point out some things that maybe they could improve on or change that would help increase their booked appointments. I've also either attended a rep's appointments or again watched it. Had some of them have recorded their appointments, and then I've watched if they're doing a virtual appointment. So I've been able to watch and go through their process of their first, second, third appointments and be able to give some feedback. Obviously, the client typically isn't going to be giving that feedback. And so the rep, unless somebody's really watching what they're doing, they're not able to really know maybe where there could be some improvements. So I'm able to kind of, watch what they're doing and give some tips on things they could maybe improve or things they could change in their appointment process. I also discuss and walk through the different resources available. So maybe if they're saying, Tyrell, my issue is I have a lot of people who are booking appointments and I'm getting the first appointment, but then people aren't following up with my second appointment. And I just don't have time to do my, outbound calls to them. And I don't have the time or resources to be able to take care of some of that stuff. I can walk through and discuss the third-party vendors that we have that you could implement and use to be able to take care of some of those things that you might not have time or resources to be able to take care of in follow-ups or things like that. There are a lot of different resources that we have. And so anytime there's a hiccup or a problem that you run into, that is part of my role. And my goal is to help you figure out how to overcome that and how to improve what you're doing so that you have better success. And then on top of that, I'm here for all of your wholesaling needs. So helping with case design, picking the right product for the right client, really figuring out, what we need to do for the client and helping, accomplish the client's goals and close a case. And so those are a few of the things that I'm here to help with. But again, I like to say I'm a chameleon. So if there's something you need, you tell me, Tyrell, this is what I'm looking for. Do you have the resources there at DMI, whether you or somebody there put you in the right direction, be able to get this stuff taken care of? So those are a few of the things that I'm here to take care of. And you're always welcome to reach out to me, call me, email me, and always happy to help. So Courtney, I'll turn it back over to you. I guess maybe Glenn, actually.
Thanks a lot, Tyrell. No, I really appreciate the insight. So clearly you've got a really robust team to help out. If you do have a marketing service agreement with us, then that's obviously the supreme option where you're really going to get a hands-on approach with everything we do. But I really appreciate the presentation today, Courtney and Tyrell. Thanks for being here to help out. If you are interested in getting started, pick your topic, pick your state, contact Courtney. She can help out. Or if you just feel like talking to Tyrell, very, very nice person to speak to. I wouldn't stop you from contacting Tyrell. So he can help you as well. That QR code will get you access to his contact information. You can just download that right to your phone, or if you want to screenshot any of this stuff, go ahead and screenshot it. But also wanted to ask Maureen. Maureen, have we got any upcoming webinars you want to talk about?
We do actually. One question for Courtney. Courtney, do you recommend running webinars with only one subject, or do you recommend maybe picking two subjects and like doing one week and a different one 2 weeks later? How does that work?
So initially we suggest just kind of like mastering one, because if you don't have that presentation down pat, then there's no use of having kind of another one running around, if you will. But yeah, for our tried and true, we have tried different topics to see also what's going to work best in your area. Maybe it's estate planning, maybe it's taxes and retirement, maybe it's Social Security. So we definitely suggest giving them all a try if you're willing to. Because yeah, like I said, it really depends on kind of what vendor and what their marketing does. What's going to get those best results for you is obviously what we all want for you. And if that means trying a different topic, we will absolutely suggest that to you.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Glenn, thank you to answer your question. We have a ton of webinars coming up, starting with Get Cash Working, which is all about strategies to move money off the sidelines. It's going to include bond alternative strategies as well as blended allocation strategies. We have a business market program with Tom Perrone coming up, which is always great for those agents and advisors that either have business clients or are looking to grow into that segment. And we also have a Sandler series coming up. And that's going to be great. That's towards the end of August into September. So really, you don't have to sign up for all three. Seeing all three is recommended, but not required.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Maureen. And again, thanks, Courtney, Tyrell, everybody that attended today. Really appreciate you being here, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have a nice Wednesday. Take care.